Welcome to my channel. This is the story of the most brutal revenge I've ever seen. This story comes from a user. I'll be reading the comments throughout the story to give you my thoughts on it. Imagine finding out your wife isn't just cheating on you. She's sneaking around with a married man who has 3 kids. Now imagine you don't just catch them. You expose the truth so powerfully that their lives unravel piece by piece. That's exactly what happened in my story. This was back in the early 2000s. I had 2 kids, ages 4 and 6. And life seemed stable, but something felt off. The kids kept mentioning they were spending whole days at their grandparents' house, except their grandparents lived an hour and a half away. That wasn't just a quick visit, and it was happening 2 or 3 times a week. Then I started checking the mileage on my wife's car. Every week there were about 400 unexplained miles. That wasn't work. That wasn't errands. Something was going on. One day the universe handed me a clue. A sticky note with her AOL password scribbled on it. I logged in, heart pounding, and there it was. Emails between her and her so-called college best friend. Only it wasn't friendly chit-chat. It was details of her secret meetups with her high school ex. She even mocked his wife for gaining weight after kids. It wasn't just betrayal, it was cruelty. I printed every single email. I needed evidence. Evidence wasn't enough. I wanted certainty. So I hired a private investigator. Let's call him Ron. Ron followed her for weeks and confirmed everything. She'd drop the kids at her parents' house, meet her old flame for lunch, spend hours at a motel, then pick up the kids and come home like nothing happened. Photos, timestamps, a complete routine. The man's name was Bob. Married, 3 kids, a vice president at his father-in-law's company. His entire livelihood, his job, his house, was tied to his wife's family. That's when I realized, if he wanted to tear my family apart, I could make sure his entire world collapsed in return, legally, strategically, and without ever raising my voice. Step 1. I hired a divorce lawyer. My kids did not deserve to grow up in the same chaos I did when my parents cheated. Step 2. I had Ron make extra copies of his report. Not just for me, but for someone else. Step 3. Timing. If this was going to land, it had to land hard, and neither my wife nor Bob would see it coming. The day arrived. At her workplace, in front of her colleagues, my wife was served divorce papers, and while she was reeling, Ron paid Bob's wife a visit. He handed her the photos, the logs, the undeniable truth. She deserved to know. And oh, she didn't just leave. She took everything with her. She drained their joint accounts, took the kids, filed for divorce. Her father fired Bob from his cushy VP job. Since the house was owned by her parents, he was kicked out. Court records later showed it spiraled even further. Restraining orders, police involvement, and eventually jail time. Bob's entire world collapsed, not because I fought him, but because the truth did all the work. Over the next few years, Bob got out, moved to another city, remarried, changed his last name. But a part of me wonders if he ever really escaped the motel. Memories fade, relationships change, and people evolve. But some scars run deep. I blocked all memories of them. No anger, no hatred, just nothing. I have a confession to make. This is actually a true story. But as soon as I read this comment, I knew I had to do a dramatic reading of it. Years later, Bob disappeared from the internet. His ex-wife thrived. She eventually took over her father's company and raised her kids in stability. As for me and my ex, we kept things civil for the children. But once they became adults, I stopped speaking to her. Not out of hate, not out of love, just nothing. Because the real victory wasn't watching her squirm. It was breaking the cycle. My kids didn't grow up in the chaos I did. I have to say, OP, this is probably one of the most solid revenge stories I've ever heard. There are so many times where somebody will post a revenge story, and it will lack detail or it won't have a clear explanation for why the revenge was necessary. And this one hits both of those marks for me. You didn't hold back any details here, and you also made it very clear why you felt compelled to seek revenge in the first place. So props to you. Well done. And I'm going to keep this section brief, because as we know, the main parts of a good revenge story are 1. You have to have a clear reason why you want to take revenge, which you did. 2. You need to carry out a plan to achieve that goal. And this is where OP really knocked it out of the park. If you watch my other videos, you'll know that I'm always talking about the importance of strategy when it comes to enacting your revenge. And you clearly put a lot of thought into how you were going to dismantle these people's lives. And then finally, you have to have a satisfying conclusion to the story. And honestly, I feel like this one could use a little bit more detail. But overall, I think it's pretty damn satisfying. And I have to say, OP, you are one of the cooler heads I've ever seen prevail in a situation like this. The fact that you were able to maintain your composure and keep a level head during such a turbulent time is something to be admired. Bravo. Now let's move on to the revenge portion of the story. Bob thought he could sneak around and get away with it. Instead, he lost his family, his job, his home, his reputation, everything. And the best part? I never had to raise a hand. The truth was enough to bring him down. That is a fantastic way to end this story. OP, you said it yourself. You never had to lay a finger on Bob, and yet he lost absolutely everything. Karma can be a harsh mistress sometimes. You don't even need to raise a finger. All you have to do is set the wheels in motion, and then stand back and watch as everything crumbles before your eyes. So what did you learn from this story? Don't cheat on your spouse with somebody who's also cheating on theirs. I know that sounds obvious, but I have to say a lot of the stories we get on this channel are people cheating on their partners with people who are also cheating on their own partners. And let's be honest, we can do better than that. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, check out this video next. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.